Well, the discussion was brought up, I don't know, 3 or 4 nights ago concerning the altar. And I still haven't got it figured out into my little simple brain as to why people like blind Bartimaeus and some of those type of people are running around Powtalk uh, like the scholar they want to be, claiming that the altars are unbiblical and should be taken out of the church. But and I don't understand that. So anyway, the subject was brought up the other night about an altar, and I just put about a little 3 or 4 minute little ditty why ditty together concerning the altar. The altar don't have to be some big marvelous thing. An altar could be a footstool, but that's not the point. The point is having a place, a point of contact. So if the if the all wise and the Pharisee stiffneck is going to sit around on Powtalk and complain about kneeling at an altar, well, I kind of went in there and I started looking around on my Bible program that we all have, and I just went to dictionary.com and I looked up the word kneeling. So, this is not going to show my intelligence because everybody knows what kneeling means. But kneeling is defined as to go down or rest on the knees or a knee. Now, that was really inspirational. I'm sure a lot of you people didn't know what kneeling meant. But I just thought I'd put it in there just for the sake of seeming to be wise. And then I went to the other part called the word altar. And the dictionary.com puts altar as an elevated place or structure, as a mound or platform at which religious rites are performed on or which sacrifices are offered to gods, ancestors, etc. So the word altar in the King James Version is mentioned 378 times. No man can say that you don't need an altar call. It's Holy Spirit that leads people to use the altar. Well, that's fine and dandy. That's fine and dandy. But the point is why do we need an altar in a church? Not who calls or who don't call. But 378 times in the King James inspirational red letter devil stomping pew jumping Bible, it's mentioned 378 times. The first place is mentioned in Genesis chapter 8, and the last place is mentioned in Revelation 16. So in betwixt Genesis chapter 8 and Revelation 16, there is 378 times that the word altar occurs. Now, anybody with any kind of reasoning would think that if you have the word altar mentioned 378 times, then the word altar is probably put there for a reason, and the word altar probably has a purpose, or therefore God would have not talked about an altar so much. Now, if the stiff-necked Pharisees on Powtalk that I've heard running around saying you ought to throw the altar out of the church thinks they're so wise, then are they wiser than one of the men in the Bible that's referred to as being one of the wisest, named Solomon? If they're so dang smart, uh, apparently they're claiming to be smarter than Solomon was. But I don't know of anybody that has the things that Solomon had going in his life. But look what Solomon did. And it was so that when Solomon had made an end of praying, now look what he did. And it was so that when Solomon had an end of praying all this prayer and supplication unto the Lord, he arose from the altar of the Lord, from kneeling on the knees with his hands spread up to heaven. Isn't that amazing? Now here you're looking at a man that the Bible claims to be the wisest of all Israel, one of the richest people of all Israel. He had a great wisdom. And look what this guy did. As great and powerful and as much wisdom as Solomon had, at least he was humble enough, more so than some of the people on Pal Talk that I've heard, to where Solomon knew exactly the point of contact was when it come time to getting things answered. And that was kneeling down in an old-fashioned altar, making contact with God, then getting up from that altar with his hands spread up toward heaven. And for the stiff-necked Pharisees that's running around on Pal Talk that wants to destroy the altar and to throw them out of the church, they need to sit under the teaching of a very wise man named Solomon that didn't think that it was foolish to kneel down at an altar, a place where he felt that was a point of contact with God. Now, do you have to have an altar? No. No, for the sake of you people in the room that wants to argue the fact whether you need an altar or not, no, you can get saved going down the road in a semi-truck on Interstate 44. Or you can get saved in your bedroom. Or you can get saved out planting bushes, I guess. But the point is, 378 times in the New Testament King James Version, they made altars, and they made them for a purpose. And that purpose was not just to have something pretty to look at, but that purpose was in order to make sacrifices on, to offer up sacrifices on, to kneel down to pray. It served as a point of contact. In Genesis chapter 33, verse 20. Genesis 33:20. Look what it says. This is Jacob.